Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. Today we're going to be talking about pedaling dynamics. In cycling, we pedal in circles. And one of the biggest problems that we find when bike fitting customers in our Bikefit studio is that they're constantly fighting against their bike. So in today's video, we're going to explore how you get your perfect souplesse. It's the French word that roughly actually exactly translates to suppleness, which has absolutely no relevance to cycling whatsoever. But in the cycling world, it widely is regarded as a smooth pedaling dynamic. So here are a number of tips that are going to aid in getting yourself a smoother pedaling dynamic. Action. But before we dig into that, I just want to ask you all a favor. Anybody that's tuned in to watch this today, please go and subscribe. The vast majority of people that watch this channel actually don't subscribe. So please go and click that little bell right now and do us all a favor so we can make more of this content on a more regular basis. Thanks very much. Let's get into it. So the main key to a smoother pedaling dynamic is not overextending the leg through the bottom of the stroke, but also not impinging the hip through the top. So the first tip of today is, and I know I bang this drum a lot, is to not run the saddle too high. So essentially what's happening, and I draw your attention to this image here, or this video, is acceleration through the bottom of the stroke. Now, if we slow this down to quarter speed, what you'll actually see is as this gent gets to the bottom of the stroke, there's a bit of an acceleration. It's a sort of staccato pedaling dynamic is the word that I like to use. It's a musical expression. It refers to da, 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 da. So if your pedaling dynamic feels a bit choppy, then this is probably the first indication that the saddle's a little bit too high. You don't want to be lurching through the bottom of the stroke and overreaching. This is the dead spot that wouldn't exist if we didn't run our saddles all too high. When lowering saddle height, it's probably good practice to do it a little bit at a time, incrementally, but measure where you were to start off with so you know where to go back in case you cause yourself some problems. It could require as much as 10 to 20 millimeters of saddle height reduction in order for you to see a difference. Conversely to excessive saddle height, insufficient saddle height can also contribute to an inability to deliver a smooth pedal stroke. Mostly by way of impinging the hip through the top of the stroke. Right, this is at top dead center. And essentially what we're looking for, and this is what I meant earlier when I said that a smooth pedaling dynamic is dictated by an ability to pass through the bottom of the stroke, but also an ability to pass through the top. If you run your saddle too low, it's going to inhibit your ability to pass through the top of the stroke. Common symptoms are usually a hitch through the top of the stroke as you lift your hip off the saddle as a means of getting over through the top of the stroke. So another way of remedying this might be to raise the saddle height. Do it a little bit at a time, please. If you start to notice that staccato pedaling dynamic through the bottom of the stroke, you've gone wrong. You're going to see a bit of a trend in this video that most of the tips that we're going to talk about now are all going to be means of opening up the hip at the top of the stroke. When we say open the hip up, we're talking about reducing the amount of internal rotation that occurs of the femoral head inside the acetabulum, the hip socket. So when you reduce crank length, and this is where very real gains can be made, when you reduce crank length, you reduce the amount of internal rotation that occurs inside your hip socket. This is why adjustments as little as 2.5 millimeters can make a reasonable difference to your pedaling dynamics, because 2.5 millimeters in overall leverage and also up-down movement isn't a great deal. But 2.5 millimeters inside your hip socket is a huge amount. And this is generally where the gains are made. We've seen a real mad dash to shorter cranks, no thanks to Tadej Pogačar recently being touted as having ridden 165 millimeter cranks. There's a bit of a danger in going too short, so I would counsel you to not just go out and buy 165 millimeter cranks just because a pro rides them. It's best to do these things in an informed manner and do it usually with the help of your bike fitter, but ensure your bike fitter's got an adjustable crank that he can actually test it with, because simply saying, oh, you should ride 165 millimeter cranks without actually testing it is complete nonsense. It's a farce. But to get off my soapbox, the benefit of a crank length reduction is not only does it reduce the amount of internal rotation of the hip, it basically reduces the amount that you need to raise the knees come through the top of the stroke. When we're reducing crank length, we will usually increase the saddle height by the same amount. So if you go from a 170 millimeter crank to a 165, you would usually raise the saddle height by 5 millimeters. What this means is you get the same terminal extension of the leg at the bottom of the pedal stroke, but you don't impinge the hip through the top of the stroke, thus improving your souplesse. Hi, sorry to interrupt. Just wanted to have a brief interlude because I wanted to announce our new partnership with PARLEE. PARLEE are the trailblazers of the custom carbon bike world. They practically invented the custom carbon bike. We have just become the London dealer for PARLEE cycles. And we wanted to invite you all to an open evening here at Bike School in Southwest London. And there's going to be champagne and canapes and all that kind of stuff, as well as a whole load of bike porn. There is also going to be a bit of an open house. We're going to be showcasing our third bike fitting studio, and it'll give you the opportunity to discuss bike fitting and custom bikes with any of our bike fitters here. We're having the owners of PARLEE come down. They're bringing a whole load of bikes, and we're going to be launching the new Z0 GT bike, which is a new fully integrated, full custom carbon bike, handmade in Boston, in the USA. Alongside that, there will also be the launch of a 25th anniversary Bob Parley edition bike. It's going to be limited 25 units. It's a very, very special product. There's going to be a link in the description below for an open evening ticket. It's limited to 100 spaces. So get booking, enjoy the rest of the video, and hope to see you on the 21st of May. Quite a lot of bike fitting talks about the key metrics of setting a bike up, i.e. saddle height, setback, handlebar drop, handlebar reach, all of this kind of stuff. But a very commonly overlooked factor is start. And this is something that we came to figure out completely by accident, was increasing the separation distance of the feet, so how far apart your feet are. And as you start to increase the distance between your feet, in some cases, or in a lot of cases, you actually start to reduce the amount of internal rotation that occurs inside the hip, thus improving the rider's ability to pass through the top of the stroke. And you can do this in a number of ways. You can do it with a pedal washer. Look up Form Bike Fitting and you will be able to buy these 2mm washers, which are double the thickness of a conventional washer. You can only use one of these per pedal, but if this in a company with maxing the cleat out, so push your cleat inboard to get it underneath the ball of your foot to stance the foot away from the bike, in combination with these, can give you a reasonable improvement in not only comfort but also power delivery and souplesse. Other ways of doing it will be long axle pedals. So Shimano makes an SPD SLE. This is our best selling pedal system at a ratio of like 100:1. It's a 4mm extension. Again, you can add these with a second pedal washer and that cleat adjustment. And then there are also the SQ Labs. Speedplay makes a different axle system. I am also in the process of developing a custom axle kit for a Shimano pedal. So stay tuned for that. That might come about one day, depends on how much money it's going to cost me. But my point stands that by increasing the stance, you can start to improve the fluidity for the rider, particularly for individuals who are on the larger side of things, individuals who are very tall, and also individuals that possess tibial varum. It's a bowing of the tibia, which is extremely common. It's a kind of, it basically almost always requires the rider's feet to be further apart. By taking the feet further apart, it can improve your fluidity through the top of the stroke, at the same time as making your saddle more comfortable, putting less weight on the hands, and all these other things as well. Have a go at running your cleats further back. Now, this one's a funny one. So when I say further back, I'm talking about taking the cleat further back towards the heel of the foot. And what this tends to do is influence the way a rider pedals. And it's not so much that taking the cleat further back improves it, it's that running the cleat too far forward makes it worse. So when you run a cleat too far forward, it tends to develop or create a plantar flexed pedaling dynamic. And plantar flexion is the act of pointing one's toes. It's indicative of instability. It also usually leads to things like clawing with the toes and gripping with the feet, which again is also indicative of instability. By taking the cleat further back, what it often does is allows the rider to dorsiflex the foot, which in turn can make it a much smoother pedaling dynamic through the bottom of the stroke. The other thing you've got to take into consideration here is that when you climb, when you go up a hill, you extend your legs more. When the front of the bicycle is elevated, a rider dorsiflexes their foot more. So you really ought to be basing your saddle height on your ability to pass through the bottom of the stroke when you're climbing seated. going back to this point, take the cleat further back will tend to stabilize your foot and thus improve your pedaling dynamics and make them a little bit smoother. Bonus point, don't overthink it. In my opinion, the key to a smooth pedaling dynamic is almost exclusively driven by good bike fit, i.e. good equipment choices. There is a slight element of legacy in the sense that if you've ridden a bike for a long time, you are more adept at functioning on a bicycle. If you're newer to the sport, it's very likely that you won't be as smooth, you won't be as stable. Don't try and scrape mud off the bottom of your shoes. Don't pull up through the back of the stroke. Do not try and pedal in a circle because neurally, it is impossible for a human being to compute driving power and delivering power in a perfect circle. It simply cannot be done. So when you start to try to deliver power in a circle, actually what it leads to is a very, very choppy pedaling dynamic. Particularly individuals who spend a reasonable amount of time on watt bikes, which have a visual representation of their pedaling dynamic, tend to almost always pedal in a very scatty, unstable fashion because watt bikes encourage, as well as watt bike instructors, well, this is what I've sort of seen, encourage riders to sort of push forward, push down, pull back, pull up, push forward, and they develop this very erratic, very scatty pedaling dynamic, all in the name of getting that figure of 8. So my advice is don't think about it. Focus on just being smooth and try and be natural. And you'll probably find that your power will go up as well. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this video has been useful, and please let me know in the comment section below if you disagree with any of my comments or if you think I've missed something. Please don't forget to subscribe as I asked for you earlier. It really genuinely does make a difference to this channel, and we hope to see you for the next one. Bye-bye.